Welcome to Top Producer Tuesday. This is season 2 and episode 8. So thank you guys for coming. And I was, I don't know if anybody caught the banter before, but obviously I was really excited to host this. So ladies and gentlemen, our guest for today, Mr. Gordon Stein. Thanks for coming.
What's up, guys? Glad to be here.
Yeah, I've known Gordon for a while, obviously professionally, and then we got to grow, obviously personally over a little bit. So I think I'll have a little bit of a unique insight, but I'm really excited to kind of hear a little bit about your story, Gordon, and learn a little bit more about yourself, and then ultimately allow the agents and everybody here to kind of hear about what your path you're on, what you're building towards, and ultimately that life by design that you're growing towards. So I think it's obviously important to always give you the mic up front to kind of set the stage for us. I know you're a man of many things, but why don't you kick us off and just give us a brief, quick overview of who you are?
Yeah, guys. So I'm Gordon Stein. I've been in real estate for my entire career. I started when I was 18. Originally from central New Jersey. I grew up in Monmouth County, a town called Manalapan. I moved to Philly in 2007 to go to Drexel. One thing about me is I've always had a job since I was like the age of 12. I worked in restaurants, camps. So at Drexel, I actually started working in the apartment building that I lived in. And that's kind of my start into real estate. So it was my sophomore year of college, moved off campus, and they were hiring a leasing agent. So I'm like, all right, like best commute ever. Took the job as a leasing agent. I took the elevator down to work every day. So I was like, great. But yeah, that's how I kind of started. And now I live in the suburbs of Philly. I live in Ambler. I have 3 kids. My oldest just turned 7. I have 3 boys. And yeah, that's kind of...
3 boys. So you got a busy house.
Yeah, I met my wife at Drexel. And from there, we kind of,
I was going to say 3 boys. You have a busy house and obviously a very, very blessed and loving wife too.
Yes.
To be the business that you're in and run a house like that. That's great though.
Yeah.
Obviously, I know, me and you, we share a lot about this, but I know family is obviously important, a very, very important thing to you. We talk about it frequently, but, was this, looking back in your early days and looking now, like, were you always on this path? Is this where Gordon Stein, going to be 18 years old? Is this where he thought he'd be right now? Or is this kind of...
It's really, I always knew I wanted to achieve like a level of income at like an early age. I always told myself like, I'm going to retire by the age of 30. And that was always my goal. Obviously I'm still working. I'm older than 30.
Mine keeps going back 5 years.
The finish line keeps moving back. So that didn't happen. But yeah, my wife and I were very on the same page with kids. We both come from like bigger families and have a lot of siblings. So yeah, I definitely think like earlier on, I just had this vision, like I'm going to work hard now so I don't have to work hard later.
Yeah. Yeah, I think too, it's funny. I was looking at you, Colin. I know Gizmo is the same way. A lot of people I know kind of started around like the Temple doing, whether they started in property management, but a lot of people start through college, kind of ultimately getting their first real landlord experience, right? Like it's the first time you kind of move out on your own. Sometimes, majority of the times your parents sign a lease, but next thing you know, you're dealing with some guy, that you never dealt with and you kind of get your, your entrepreneurial spirit. So is that like kind of when it started for you? Like, were you an entrepreneur going into college? This is like, you said you had a job, and I also want to know what your first job was, but we'll get to that.
Yeah, so I think it's in my blood. My dad's an entrepreneur. He actually created a business that he's been doing for 40 years. He does appliances. So I think as a kid, he would always take me to work. So that was ingrained in me from early childhood. Real estate kind of came out of nowhere. I thought I was going to be a lawyer. I actually went to school initially to become a lawyer. Did like criminal justice, all this stuff. And I think it was my first year. I'm like, yeah, don't want to do this. I took an entrepreneurship class in Drexel as one of my majors. And I did business law and entrepreneurship. And from there, like the entrepreneurship program at Drexel back then was very early on, but kind of gave me a taste of like business planning and all this stuff. And then decided after college, like there's no way in hell I'm going to law school. And thankfully I didn't have to because I got into real estate my sophomore year and that kind of went from there.
So graduated, walk me through the next couple of years after you graduate Drexel. Are you still working in property management?
Yeah, so early on, I have a lot of years as leasing agent, property manager. Did student housing for years throughout Drexel. I worked at the Courts Apartments, which is at 36th and Palatine, which is an on-site, like old historic apartment building, 150 apartments, gated community, all undergrad student housing for the most part. After that, one of my subcontractors actually got me a job interview out at the towers at Wingcote, which if you're driving like up on Cheltenham, if you're taking like 309 essentially down, you'll see there's 3 huge towers. It's like 1,100 apartments. Started there right after college as a leasing agent. And that was like a big corporate job. Worked there for a couple years. Got my real estate license. So I would leave work and then go take in in-person classes while I was doing that to get my real estate license. Hung my license at KW early on, but never sold because I was doing leasing. And then from there, I actually worked at OCF Realty way back when it was a very small shop at 20th and South, as like a property manager. And I used to go and meet like a landlord, like landlord wants to rent their house, hire a property manager. I would drive, meet them. And that's what gave me a taste of Philly. I was able to like drive all throughout Philadelphia and learn these neighborhoods. I used to show the rentals. So like now I know the city like the back of my hand. And from there, honestly, like I just sat there. There's a couple guys that worked here that were there early on too. And I saw all these sales agents coming and going. And I was there, working all the time. And I'm like, what the hell? Like these guys are closing deals. And then from there, I'm like, all right, I need to figure out what's next. And that's when I'm like, all right, I'm going to go into sales. And I gave up my property management leasing title and I took that leap into doing sales full time.
So give me the like time frame of where we're at here. You get licensed, you're working property manager, you got licensed and you just hung it with OCF, right? You said you weren't selling.
I moved my license from KW to OCF back then when I decided to move it. And then I did sales for OCF for a little while. It didn't really get much traction. From there, I actually joined the Attican group. Yeah. Really? So I was with Antonio and Adam Attican very early on in my career. And that's kind of when I really started doing sales full time. And then from there, I think I went out on my own. I was with Chris Summers for a while. I was on the Summers team for a little bit and went back to OCF for a short stint and then went to Compass when the pandemic happened. So I've been everywhere. Like I've jumped around a lot. Well,
you were finding your footing, I think, especially in the beginning part of your career. So I kind of want to focus there because like that's where I think I started. Obviously, the first time you and I started speaking was strictly co-op broker situations, right? And anytime you got a showing request from Gordon Stein on one of your listings, you knew you were following up because you probably had a pretty good buyer, pretty good pre-approval. Like, everybody knows there's people you want to do deals with, right? Gordon is obviously one of those agents. So, talk to me about that. Like, what was that switch? Like, what happened? I know you said you saw a bunch of agents or people around you closing deals, but what allowed you to just say, I'm going to go all in on this, forget leasing, and this is going to become my one thing?
I think I'm grateful I had my wife back then. So I met my wife freshman year of college, but I've been together since sophomore year. So I think when we graduated college, she started making decent money where I was able to kind of like, all right, take that leap of faith, knowing that like, all right, we have someone to buy groceries, someone to like pay rent because we started living together shortly after college. So I think having that financial confidence, like, all right, I know I'm not going to like go broke and be homeless, allowed me to take that leap of faith. And I was done. Like I was burnt out doing property management, especially if you're doing it you're getting yelled at by tenants all day. You're getting yelled at by landlords all day.
Business,
you're stuck in the middle and your hands are kind of tied if like a landlord doesn't want to fix something you're capped at like there's a ceiling for your income in those roles. And I figured like I got to break through that ceiling and kind of get rewarded for the work that I put in.
It was more that limitless approach. You kind of wanted to see that world. So, talk to me about the first, what was the hardest part about becoming a full-time agent? Like walk me through the struggles that you went through there and, kind of how you faced it and how you worked through it.
So like my story's kind of all over the place, but when I first got my license, I wasn't doing sales. So when I decided, all right, it's time to do sales, joining the team was like the propeller, it was like that accelerator that like really got me going. I mean, just the opportunity for open houses, the opportunity for like the whatever leads came through, the shadow opportunities, just having someone to call.
Mentorship.
A mentor, like having like how do I do this addendum or this agreement of sale? Like it's so helpful being on a team. So I think joining the team early on, which was my first team was the Attican group when it was around. And I was with like really successful guys, Justin Brezen, Aaron Biles was on that team, and Stephanie Slappin. Like there was a really core group, and they're all still they're all top agents today in the business. So
I mean, I have a similar story and a similar situation. It's funny how there's a lot of similarities between top producers and their stories, but I think at the end of the day, it always comes down to at that one point you had to take that bet, right? You had to make that bet, and you did that for yourself. Like, what do you feel like for you was what was that moment that clicked that you were like, you know what, this is it for me. Like, this is what I want to do. I'm going to put my head down. This is where my focus is. Because, Gordon, I remember, like, you were consistent producer, but then I think I felt like once you put your head to it, you just skyrocketed. So just, walk us through that.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely takes time to build a business. And I think it's consistency over time starts to, like, compound. I remember early on when I got out of property management and leasing into sales, I told myself, Jim, that as long as I can make the salary that I was making doing property management in my first year of sales, like that's my goal. And I did. Like I think I was making like 65 grand a year as a property manager, leasing agent back then. And I was like, for that, it was like great money. I was 20 something years old. And then like first year of sales, like, surpassed that. I'm like, all right, the confidence is there. Now it's like, all right, let's try and leverage this and build it.
Yeah. So let's talk about the earlier years in your business. You get that confidence underneath you. Like what was giving you the confidence? What were your biggest lead sources? How was Gordon doing deals?
Yeah. I'm trying to go back and remember. I've probably a lot of agents, I've told this story before. Like I used to crush open houses. Like I used to do anywhere from like 3 to 5 open houses a weekend. And I would always bring federal donuts and mimosas. It's ironic I brought donuts today. But like that was my thing. And I always like focused on the neighborhood that I wanted to do business in. My career really took off when I was on the Summers team because I was living in Fishtown. Summers is very big, Fishtown, Northern Liberty's agent. So they just had a ton of listings in the neighborhood that I wanted to be successful in. And I would sit all the new construction stuff that Chris had listed. And literally I would take my box of donuts and my mimosas. If no one showed up to the first open house, well, guess what? I have 4 more open houses. So I'm just going to keep shuffling through. And at a certain point, it's a numbers game. And took advantage of social media. Back then it was like Facebook Live. Now it's like the Instagram Reels. But I used to go on Facebook Live and be like, oh, this is 123 Main Street. Come take a look at this new construction. And like put myself out there even though nothing was going on.
So early days of social media, I've seen you obviously grow with social media, but how are you following up? Like what's your follow-up plan? Because I think that's the hardest part, right? Anybody can host an open house, but how are you getting and staying consistently in front of these people to get them to trust you to then buy, right? If they're these type of shoppers.
So I tell like agents, especially because I used to run my own team, like the open houses, you're not really there to sell the house. You're there to like build relationships with the people that walk through that door. And the way to do that is figure out how you can provide value as quick as possible. For me back then, it was a lot of new construction when Fishtown was developing, East Kensington was developing. So it was always like educating people from out of town, first-time home buyers, and what a tax abatement is. Yep. Like, hey, you guys know that this house has a 10-year tax abatement, and start that conversation. And then the action plan is like schedule a buyer consultation for anyone that like is unrepresented. Like that is the goal. Just get like a legible email address or a phone number and get that buyer consultation set up. And that is kind of what I did early on.
And then you just stay consistent on that point.
I had a very formal like buyer consultation I did, and that was my consistency over time. And then from there, like once you had that core base of like your first buyers that came through, I started doing events, and then the referrals started coming in. So it starts to grow and grow and grow if you just keep at doing the same thing.
So let's talk about the growing part, right? Because I think that's what we all want to learn about. Like, so, you start getting them in, now you start selling them, right? How do you take that business to the next level to where you're not hosting as many open houses? I know you used to do a lot of events, stuff like that. So walk us through that relationship building.
Yeah, I mean, this takes like years. Like unfortunately, this is not like an overnight success. I think I mentioned that last time I spoke at one of our other events. Like this took years. Like my first year selling real estate, I think it was like, I don't know, I think it was like 12 houses that I sold. And that was like my goal. Like that was enough to like what I needed. And then from there, it just like, it kind of happens on its own. Like as long as, like for me, keep my head down, do what I know I need to do. And at some point that success will come. Yep. So I think it was more like I kept doing the open houses. Treated every client, no matter what that price point was, the same, whether it was a $200,000 buyer or a $600,000 buyer. Like I'm going to pick up the phone call, get back to them. So that level of customer service was always there. So I think just to do the right thing, treat people with respect, work hard, and like it's not that complicated.
There's a pretty simple path and plan to it, right? Yeah. I think the thing that the thing I keep picking up for you is the consistency. I think one thing I keep picking up and hearing is that, when you put your eyes and you set yourself, you get yourself some confidence, then you stick with the plan, you ultimately know what the result is. And it's the truth. I mean, you could build a big business very quickly. I mean, there's a lot of examples of that in this room, but I think a long-term successful plan that has allowed you the successes, is ultimately you got to be consistent with. You have to understand it. So, talk to us about them next steps now. So, obviously you said you moved to Compass, you ran a team. Tell me about sort of like the next phase of Gordon's real estate business, Gordon Stein real estate things, and what that looked like and
Yeah, so it got to a point where I was like trying to build a team, and then the pandemic happened, and I think it was like 4 or 5 agents under me, and the reason for that is like you get to a point where you're so busy where you can't help everyone that wants to be helped, which is a great problem to have. So you have to kind of like leverage your time better. Like if you're selling a ton of houses, you can't kind of do rentals anymore. You can't like work with certain buyers, and it's tough. But you want to make sure you surround yourself with that system to support like your clients and the referrals they bring in. So I started like leveraging. My first hire was an assistant, and then it was a buyer's agent, and then it was just a couple more like agents on the team that got that overflow of the business that I couldn't handle. And I did that at OCF for a little bit, but then like the pandemic happened, the world turned upside down. At that point, Compass was giving out these fat like bonus sign-ons, and like I have to do it. I don't know when my next paycheck's coming in, so I took the entire team, moved to Compass, and Compass was like it was a great brokerage. I really don't have anything negative to say. And from there, it was like teaching you how to use the technology that they provide to be the best agent you could be. So that was great. And then the market changed. Like rates went up to 7% or 6.5%, and that's when like the team started to like the business wasn't coming in as much. So I'm like, all right, well, like this is really stressful. I think I had 2 kids. My third kid was like about to be born. And I would say like having children too, like I say this a lot, but with every subsequent kid that I had doing real estate sales at a high level, I actually just got more and more burnt out. So it got to the point where my third kid was here, 3 boys. And back then it was, I think my oldest was like 4. So I had like 3 kids under the age of 4. I think we're under the age of 5. And I'm like, all right, I need to figure something out. So I was very intentional with like, how do I leverage my sales business? And I started referring it all out.
Yep.
And focus on like, how do I get into doing what I'm doing now, which is pretty much development investment full time. So it was like a personal reason. I just mentally couldn't really do this at a high level anymore.
Yep.
So I started to figure out like, how can I still service it, but spend my time out of it?
And this is what I think is going to be the biggest and one of the biggest learning lessons for a lot of agents here. Because, I mean, obviously when you joined us, Gordon, you came over here, I was very heavily involved in discussions and working through what made the most sense and how to do that. And I think ultimately we were able to build that. So, you just said to me that, rates were high, sales got tougher, and then you just made the decision. But like, have you thought about building this, taking a step towards development? What did you know that it was down the line? But if you didn't know if it was like 5 or 10 years, or like, were you just like, hey, I'm done with the sales thing. I got to figure out something next, whether it's flipping houses or working at Comcast, right? Like, talk me through that, because that's pretty interesting.
So like, I never really knew that this was the path. I always had an interest in development, even when I was an agent full time. I did like 1 project a year. I bought some rentals along the way, and like it was good. Like those. I don't know, like you learned a lot hiring GCs and going through that process. And it was tough. Like I had been through my fair share of general contractors where you're like trusted to do the job for you, and you're busy with life or selling real estate, and they up. And I mean, I've been in lawsuits going after GCs before to just collect money. So I got to the point where like, all right, I need to figure out the system, because I'm not going to go back to just like, doing this on the side. Like if I'm going to do this, I got to figure out like, I'm going to go, it's like all or nothing for me. I suffer from all or nothing kind of mentality. So once I kind of made that decision, like, all right, sales is kind of like, it's getting to be a little bit too much of a burden. It shifted. I'm like, all right, what's next? And then once I figured out, like, I'm going to start like leaning into the investment stuff full time. It's like, all right, like kind of like hit the ground running from there.
So obviously, shifting your business from being a real estate sales business, probably being a little bit more reactive and service-based, to now being a development business where you're probably being more proactive and trying to find deals. Talk to me about what that shift of like referring your book out, referring your business, and getting yourself to where you're at now. Because I mean, that probably seems so mind-blowing to so many people here, but it's so realistic.
It's tough, and I would say that was probably one of the toughest things that I had to experience as an agent. And just even ego aside, like you have people that want to work with you, and it's very tough to turn those people away. Or like even past clients, like, oh, like, hey, the house that you sold me, we're getting ready to list it. And I'm like, oh, man, like I really want to go to my kid's soccer game, or, have dinner with my family. And of course they work a normal job and they're only available like after 6 o'clock, or even the phone call stuff. It just gets to that point where like, if you're trying to like, if you figure out the life you want, it's like, I feel like in real estate, we're constantly making sacrifices. Like, ooh, do I chase this person down because there's that potential of a commission check down the line, or do I, miss this person's birthday party? And for me, it got to the point where like, I need to figure this out. And that was tough because the script in doing that, like, all right, Mr. or Mrs. like past client, like I want to help you, but I can't help you because I have too much going on. But here's what I called my business partner that's going to come in. So that script took some time to figure out. And I bring people in as my business partners to help service the broker business now.
So I think it's something you and I can definitely relate to, because I know the same exact thing, and it's tough, and I know, I'm doing one tomorrow. There's some times where you just have to, people break your heart and you kind of bend a little bit, but I know you're probably a lot more tough on that for me. But kind of explain how that works as far as like finding your partners. Who are you looking for that's a great partner to Gordon's deals? And then also, how do you make that introduction? How do you maintain that relationship? Kind of talk to us about that.
Yeah,
that handoff.
That took some time to figure out. Like I said, I think for me, like the business partners need to be aligned personality-wise, in terms of availability-wise. Like, if I know a client needs to see houses on nights and weekends, well, that person that I bring in is probably not going to have the young kids running around where they're going to be, at dinners and bedtimes and whatnot. So I think just pairing the right people up and having someone that I know if I hand it off, like, my client is going to, like, I don't have to be involved as much. Yeah. So like, if I can take a back seat, be there as needed for anything, but like not have to be involved in that day-to-day communication. And if I find that right person, like that was key for me. And
then as far as communication, when you hand these leads off, are you in group chats with them? Are you involved in negotiate? Talk to me about that.
So this also took some time to figure out, because I was doing like the initial buyer consultations or seller listing appointments, and then trying to bring someone in after the fact. I'm like, this doesn't really seem to make sense. So then I'm like, all right, round 2 is like, let's do it together. Let's go on that listing appointment together. Let's do that buyer consultation together. And that's what I found is like the best system. So for me at least, like if I had a client that I knew like I wasn't going to have the time to give them that customer service experience that I would like to give them, whoever is going to help me with that, they're coming to that initial appointment. Yep. From there, it's a group message like, hey guys, this is like, John and Judy's like home buying chat. I'm in there, that referral, my business partner's in there, the clients are in there. And then at some point, like they just phase me out, which is great. And I'll be CC'd on a couple things. I'll get notified of like, all right, there's an issue here. And then the goal is to just be notified, all right, they closed, and great.
Yeah. So that's the whole point. Now, it sounds like for you to be able to hand off these referrals, you must have strong relationships with people. So it sounds like you built that over time. Talk to me about like, how did you have a deep CRM? Were you always a note taker on your CRM, keeping good analytics? Like, how do you approach, your relationships?
I think it's how I built my business, which is really like treating these clients like they are. I mean, you develop really good relationships with them, but like treat them like they're family or friends, and give back to them, like provide value across the board. So I have like clients that without a doubt, I know they're showing up to my client events. Like there's like your frequent flyer kind of clients that like are always there. Yep. And those are typically the people that are referring you business too. And the people that do refer you business, like I treat very well. Anytime I get an incoming referral from a past client, like I'll reach out to them and be like, all right, like I'm grateful. What do you want a gift card to this time? Yeah. And like, I'll just thank them again. And I'm like very good at tracking where the leads come in from, so I know how to give back when I close the deal.
It's great. No, it makes a ton of sense. And it sounds like a lot of that carried over. So I think now I'm going to turn the page a little bit more and get into the development side. So, you've obviously had a very successful real estate career, still do, have a very big book of business. Now you're running a development and, real estate business, really, truthfully. So talk to us about what this business looks like, what your days look like. Just give us the full overview of what Gordon Stein Real Estate is like today.
How much time do we got?
We got plenty of it, brother.
So I think for me, in getting into development now, what I really like that's different about doing sales at a high level is like your nights and weekends are kind of back. Like these construction sites aren't really running past 6 o'clock, maybe Saturdays, but like it's the proactive versus reactive. Like if there's a headache on a construction site, which there's a lot of headaches on these construction sites, I like that I have the control to make the decisions to solve those problems, because in a real estate sales transaction, a lot of times you get jammed up. Like a client's emotions are here. Like let's say you're representing the buyer, and like the buyer wants the house at this price, but the seller wants to sell it at this price. And like, you've already shown that client 30 houses and you're like $5,000 away from getting a deal done. Well, guess what? If buyer and seller don't come to terms, like, you're back to square one again. If there's a issue on a job site, and let's say like, all right, the drywall guys hit a PEX plumbing line and there's a leak. All right, well, I can write a check and make it go away and solve that issue right there. So that control in doing this investment development is something that I like. I would say more than anything is because I know I can solve the issue and make those decisions to kind of, to kind of have the outcome as best as it could possibly be.
So let's talk about the business today and the team. So, how many active projects you have going on right now in the pipeline, going on and all that stuff right now?
So, not as many as I'd like, but I mean, it's been good. So like last year was really like my first full year doing this full time at a high level. And we hit 12 projects. Like we did 12 flips last year, which was great.
It's incredible.
Right now throughout like, I have one project out in the burbs. I actually have a new construction lot that I bought. That's going to be a new adventure for me, but building new construction. There's 7 active job sites, all in like various stages, like some getting ready to close, some on the market for sale, and then I think it's like four active construction sites out of those 7.
So obviously that's 4 active and 7 construction sites and jobs going on right now. I obviously have leverage, right? Talk to me about your team a little bit, and who's there, who helps you out, and supports all that.
So the newest hire that I brought on is my project manager, Fernando, who he's on Instagram, and we're pimping him out too. And Fernando has been like a lifesaver for me because he's my eyes and ears on the job site. I live an hour outside of Philly. So for me to manage these job sites and be here every day while being like a present dad and husband is really tough. Like I really don't want to be on these construction sites every day. So having Fernando, if like the framer needs a couple extra 2x4s, he's able to run to Home Depot, drop them off. Like it's like the glue to keep things running.
Yep.
And it has alleviated my time on site. So that was like one of the best people that I have brought into this construction business.
Yep.
I also have Drew, who does my marketing. She's helped me like get a lot of exposure by being like present on social media. And my subs, like I have built these relationships with all the subcontractors that do the work on my houses. And I think having subs that like are going to get the work done and the quality of what it's going to, like that changes the game for you.
Yep.
And I've kicked out the GC. I'm my own GC now. So I kind of went through all of that and I GC my own projects at this point.
Sounds like, for you, it's pretty simple. It's just leveraging the right relationships and the right people that allows you to scale and do more. So last year, that's a crazy number to say, well, we didn't do as many as we want, but your first year in business, you hit 12. That's 1 a month, right? Like if you went in business plan, for 1 a month, you freaking nailed it, right? So tell me, talk to me about how you planned for that first. Like, was it a plan to do 1 a month? Like, talk to me about what led up to it and got you to doing that full 12.
Yeah, talking to another buddy of mine, Alan, the other day about this and how you get from being a sales agent where like you have a passion, like you do this every day and you want to invest. And I think that like, how do you get from A to B? For me, it's 2 things. It's like 1, it's easier when you have training wheels, and it's also easier when you have a financial safety net. Same thing when I went from property management to sales, like having some level of financial backing, whether it's like 6 months of savings or whatever that number is, that kind of gives you that confidence you need to like just take that leap of faith. But when I say training wheels, it's having either a mentor that is going to hold your hand through your first 1 or 2, or it's going to be a business partner that has done it before that takes away some of that risk. So if you can take away some of that risk, maybe not make as much money, give up some equity, but you have like those training wheels and safety net, like that's going to fast track you into doing this. It's like joining a real estate team in sales. Like, if you're brand new to sales, you probably want to join a team. You're not going to make as much money on your deals, but you're going to have all that support around you. So that's how we did it. Like I partnered with a few different people early on, other real estate agents that we kind of all had a similar passion, all have different skill sets. And then you start building the confidence. You do 1 flip, 2 flips, 3 flips, and you're like, all right, we got this. You kind of start reusing the same subcontractors. You start building those relationships, and it just compounds over time. Confidence builds over time. And you're like, all right, I think I know what I'm doing. Boom, start doing it on your own.
It's, the listen, it's one thing I love about our ecosystem here and what we built. I mean, and I think every one of the people that is doing development in business, like Robin, Colin, Gordon, Mitch, everybody, Jordan, like they give back because I think that's so integral in the beginning. And it's, I was listening to a podcast this morning and like me and Ryan Serhant don't see eye to eye on all things and everything, but he says the same thing I say, like you always need that partnership or that mentor, that team in the beginning to help you learn and grow. I think it's so important. So for you, like where did you find those people? Are you just going to networking events? Like tell me about that.
No, they're buddies of mine actually. So I have like two buddies that we kind of got together initially. One of the buddies was like our contractor. He had his GC license back then. And then my other buddy was like the glue that brought it all together. And I was like, find the deal guy, design the house guy. And like, I had the GC kind of built in. It got to the point where like there's three of us and these deals, I mean, the margins just aren't that big to be splitting everything three ways. So then like me and my one buddy went out, me and the other buddy went out and started doing a couple things. And then like the relationship side of it too. So then like I had a wholesaler. Like I'm sure most of you guys know what wholesalers are. I started becoming very close with them, and they brought me like an awesome deal in Fishtown. I'm like, let's partner up and do it together. Yeah. I did everything. They brought me the deal, but I like ran the job site, designed the house. And so like the relationships can come in all aspects, whether it's like your friend, someone that has the experience. It's all about like, I think like making sure you're on the same page, making sure you guys have the same intentions and like what the goal is. But I've learned, make sure your skill sets are different. Yeah. Like you don't want to be, and this is kind of where a couple of like the earlier partnerships kind of went wrong, is like our skill sets were the same. And at a certain point you're like, this is business for me. It's not like a hobby. Yeah. And I have to increase the profit margins, unless you're bringing like more deal flow and stuff. So you have to have a strategic partnership, I guess is what I'm saying. Making sure that whoever you partner with is providing enough value where it makes sense to split those profits. Yeah.
So you just talked about like your strategic value, like your specific value. What do you feel is your highest and best value right now in your business? Like what's your lane?
I think what it's come down to now is like I know how to navigate the single family like residential flips in Philadelphia very well, especially on like the easy permit side of things. So if like anyone wants to do a full gut rehab in Philadelphia, residential single family, I know that system like pretty front and back. It used to be finding deals. However, it's gotten like very difficult as of the past few months to like get more deal flow. And then I would say the design aspect, like all of my houses, like I'm choosing everything in those homes. So I think that's probably my biggest value add is like designing these houses.
Still really on the transactional side. So you still have that piece. You're finding or you're involved in a lot of deal findings. Obviously, you know what buyers want, so you're helping pick the selections.
We definitely have a leg up being a real estate broker. Like, I mean, most of my deals, believe it or not, still come from MLS. Yeah. But as a licensed agent, I mean, we have so much of a leg up versus like any other flipper that isn't a licensed agent.
How many deals in your lifetime do you feel as if you sold somebody else and you think about it, you're like, man, I should have never sold that, right? If like you put on, I always tell our agents, everybody, you should always be an investor first. The first thing you do when you walk into anything or first time you look at a deal, you think investment and then work your way up. And I think,
I'll tell you why we don't though as agents, like, because I was in that same boat too, where I made so many clients so much money over the years. It's because you don't have the confidence to do it yourself, or you don't have the mentor holding your hand through that process.
So let me bring it in here. I think everyone just heard Gordon is your future partner on all your deals, right? Like that's what, no, literally, if you think about it, like if you want to crack in here, and that's probably the same way you did it. And I know the first one I did, the first way I got in, like no one really goes in, I don't think at least, and jumps in and just says, let's start flipping houses and doesn't end up well, right? Like everybody has that. So guys, there's your first client. You pick up and prospect and call anybody you want. You partner right here and available to you, but it's great. Yeah. Now talk to me about the next path. Like I want to know what this vision looks to, right? Because I think the one thing that I've always been so impressed with and, is your ability to stay so focused in your one niche. Like you said, I mastered the single family residential flip row home, easy permit. Like what does the next 3-5 years look like? You just bought a vacant lot. I'm assuming you're planning on doing ground up. Are you starting to do more units? Talk about all that.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's tough to say because it's another thing that I think a lot of us struggle with. And I definitely struggle with it is like, what the hell's the finish? Like, what is the goal line? Like, what are we actually working towards? Like, how many flips a year? Like, how many units do you want on the rental side? So like, yeah, the comparison culture kind of creeps in. You're like, oh, everyone around me is building these new construction, like multifamily houses. Do I want to maybe dabble in that? So I don't really know. Like, I do like to learn, I think is like another part of this. Like, I would take a project down. I mean, you don't want to lose money, but if there's a learning experience in it, I would probably try it. So I think for me, it's like just staying consistent, but scaling it up to doing more deals and getting out into the suburbs. I really want to be flipping houses in the suburbs.
Yeah.
I think we put out a video yesterday, just like it's so much easier and the houses aren't as bad in the suburbs. Like you can get away in some of these suburban flips with kitchens and bathrooms and flooring, where in the city, you're like down to the studs on almost every house.
Let's talk about these two different deals, right? Because as you, probably an investor, imagine if everyone had your concept, how many deals you'd be seeing, right? So tell everybody in here how they should be looking for a city deal that Gordon Stein wants to buy, or how should they evaluate looking on the market, dialing on MLS, like whatever it is.
So neighborhood first and foremost, and school district in the suburbs. Like with the market we're in now, I would say like if you're flipping houses, try and do it in like a B+ neighborhood and better.
Yeah.
So I would say like focus on good neighborhood. I do a lot in Fishtown, parts of South Philly, and I don't know, like for the deals to make sense, there has to be enough meat in there for someone to take 3 to 6 months of their life to deal with Philadelphia's licenses and inspections, to deal with the neighbors, to do these projects. So a lot of times, like there's what I call like a 250 rule, and I'll try and explain it. But like if you're buying a house for 150 grand, that house needs to sell for 400 grand on the ARV or after repair value for me to want to do that. I'm looking at targeting like anywhere from like say $70,000 to $100,000 margin per deal, and the reason being is like I'm the GC.
Yep.
I'm usually brokering it on the back end too. So if I was paying a GC and if I was paying an agent to sell my homes on the back end, that 70 to 100 is actually like 40 to 60. And all it takes is 1 or 2 things to go wrong on that project. And then you're down to like 15 or 20 grand. And you're like, why the hell did I just waste 3 to 6 months of my life being on these, so there has to be enough room on these deals to make sense. The problem with today's market is a lot of deals don't have those margins in them. So you have to like I would say restrain yourself from buying the ones that don't have them, because like every day, like I'm so close to getting this deal or this, and like I have to pay more than I previously paid. Like a house in, let's say, Newbold or Point Breeze that used to get for like $150, now it's like it's 180, and you're like, do I want to do it just to like have another deal? So having those, like I think that self-restraint to not pay 180 when you know a house is worth 150 is really, really important.
Are you very analytical on the number side? Like, do you have a fierce, are you a back of the napkin?
I'm a back of the napkin guy.
Tell us a little bit, just run this, talk high level. You know?
I think being a real estate agent for so long, you kind of know like what homes sell for in the areas that you know well. Like in Fishtown, you give me a address and the square footage, bedrooms, bathrooms, I can probably tell you what I can pay for it without even seeing the house and what it's probably worth. So my back of the napkin math is like I kind of gotten the construction numbers down pretty well, where I can see like the square footage, and as long as like the sewer line isn't completely gone or structurally the front and back walls aren't destroyed, like I know how much this is going to cost. So my back of the napkin math is like I'm able to know what construction is, I know what it sells for, I know what I can pay. I just kind of work backwards and what my profit needs to be. And I think for me, like to grow and do things at a higher level, like the new construction or multifamily, I don't have that confidence yet. So I'm also looking to learn and partner with people that do have that confidence, that are doing these bigger developments, because I think, at a certain point, like if I don't have the confidence and I'm not great analytically with the numbers, like it's kind of like, all right, I'm just not going to do the deal because the numbers overwhelm me. So that's kind of why I stay in my lane with these single family homes.
It's impressive.
I have the confidence in them, and I know what I'm doing.
Listen, I think that there's something to be said about that self-will of not, jumping after or chasing everything. And I think if you look at the history of developers, the ones who probably lose the hardest are the ones who don't have that self-control. So I think that's a massive, opportunity. So let me, I want to do a few little fun things, and I know we got a couple of questions though. But I like this or that section, but there's two final questions I want to finish off. First thing, obviously we'll aim towards the agent side, but what advice would you give, any agent in the door right now? Like your biggest takeaway from being an agent, just one thing to focus on.
Work harder. No, I'm just kidding. I really think that, like I said earlier, like this, it's very easy to be a real estate agent. It's very difficult to be a successful real estate agent. And the only thing that sets the successful real estate agents apart from the ones that aren't, I think, is work ethic. Like I really do think it comes down to how hard you want to work for what you want to get to. And there's sacrifices that you have to make. Like if I had to do what I did early on when I was like 18 to in my early 20s, to building it now versus now, like having 3 kids, like I don't think I can have that work ethic to do it. So it's tough because in every aspect of your life, like you may have more kids than I have. I don't know, but it's tough. Like it is tough. But for me, it's just work. You put your head down and work your ass off.
That's it. So then earning years, right? Last thing I got for you. Do you have like a life motto? Just do you have one big phrase? What's your one big overall message? What's that one thing inside Gordon Stein?
I would say like do the right thing no matter what.
Integrity. Yeah,
integrity. Like whether it's in sales, development, like just be the bigger person, do the right thing. Life will be great.
Well, I'm going to do some this and that, and then we're going to jump into some questions real quick. Gordon, I got this or that Philly classics for you, all right? You just have to answer them rapid fire real quick. Pats or Geno's?
Can I say neither? Or,
well, we got two. All right, we'll go Angelo's or John's?
Angelo's.
All right, cool. Wawa or Sheets?
Wawa.
All right. Phillies opening day or Eagles tailgate?
Probably Eagles tailgate.
South Philly or Fishtown?
Fishtown for sure.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Broad Street Run or Mummers Parade?
Broad Street Run.
Shore House or Pocono's House?
Shore House.
Rita's Water Ice or John's Water Ice?
Oh man, I've never been to John's, believe it or not. So I know I can't answer that. So
Delco or South Jersey?
Man.
Like I should have said mainline. Mainline or South Jersey?
Mainline. I would say mainline.
All right, there you go. And then some development questions. We just answered that one, so I'm not going to say it. 10 smaller projects or one big one?
One big one.
Sell or hold?
Depends. If you could afford to hold.
There you go. City development or suburb development?
Suburb development.
Find a deal or raise the money?
Find the deal. The money will follow.
Corner property or mid property?
Mid property. Corner properties are very expensive.
I knew what you were going to say. That's why I asked that. Gordon, I appreciate it. That was awesome, man. I do want to leave it up though.